On a more serious note, it has been a week of shootings here in Vancouver, and one that has many wondering where those guns are coming from. Well, the debate over gun control is all fired up in the United States over President Obama's gun control measures, but for some perspective on gun ownership here in Canada, we have a local gun enthusiast with us. Rod Giltaca is a firearms instructor from Chilliwack and is here in Studio 10. Not armed, but he has brought in a firearm with him. Rod, good morning.
Good morning, Rick. Thanks for having me.
How hard is it to own a gun in this country?
Well, I wouldn't consider it difficult, but we actually do have some good gun control measures. To own a firearm in Canada, you have to do a 2-day safety course. You have to apply to the government, meaning all your personal information. There's a criminal record check involved. Also, if you look at the application, you have to reveal who your last 2 conjugal partners were. That's to take care of any potential domestic violence that might occur if you are trying to get a firearm. And also you have to provide 2 references of people that have known you for 3 years or longer that aren't your spouse. So it's pretty comprehensive as far as they're not handing them out on the street kind of thing.
How does that compare to what goes on in the United States?
In the United States, they have a little bit of a different system. Basically, you have to be over 18 and have no felony record. You don't have to prove competency with a firearm. You don't get even so much as a lecture from anyone. Firearm safety and everything around that is just left up to individuals.
So the stringent rules here in Canada apply to the good guys, people who get them for legitimate reasons. But the bad guys who have handguns, who have guns that aren't registered, how do they get them?
Well, Vancouver Police did their own study, which is interesting just for an agency to do their own statistical work. They did a study a little while back, and don't quote me on the numbers. For anybody that's curious, they should definitely look this information up themselves, not take anyone's word for it. But the numbers that I'm aware of is they did a study, and they found that 96% of the illegally held firearms that they took off gang members and criminals, actually were unregistered, came in across the border. So they're not from licensed gun owners.
As a guy who's been around guns for a long time, I'm sure, you may have grown up with them in your family. What's the difference between the gun culture here and the gun culture in the United States?
There's a strong gun culture in Canada. It's something that you don't hear about very often unless it's, unfortunately, something negative goes on and then you hear about the gun culture. But a couple of things that I would highlight is that even if you look into gun forums, Canadian gun forums, and you look at interaction between gun owners in Canada, it's very rare for anyone to imply that their firearms are for any self-defense or shooting people. No one will say, make any reference to shooting other people. And the United States is different because they have their firearms for a legal reason to own a firearm in the United States is for self-defense. So they, as I like to say, Canadians, we have a lot of guns per capita, but we just don't shoot each other with them.
I was stunned by the news that the president, when he spoke recently, he said, since we lost those 20 children, the 20 lives in Sandy Hook, 900 people in the United States since have been killed by firearms. 11,000 are killed a year in the United States by firearms. The president announced new gun control measures this week.
Ask your member of Congress if they support universal background checks to keep guns out of the wrong hands. Ask them if they support renewing a ban on military-style assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. And if they say no, ask them why not. Ask them what's more important. Doing whatever it takes to get a A grade from the gun lobby that funds their campaigns, or giving parents some peace of mind when they drop their child off for first grade.
This has become a very emotional and a fierce debate in the United States. What do you make of it?
Well, and anything to do with firearms and anything to do with a horrible, disastrous event like Sandy Hook or any of the other multiple victim public shootings that they've had in the past, emotions run high, and you have this compulsion by politicians and by normal people to do something. They can't just sit and do nothing. We had a very similar situation after the massacre at École de Polytechnique in Montreal in '89, which resulted in the Firearms Act. And the only issue is that in emotional times like that, with such an emotional issue, it's a bad time to be making legislation. So Canada got some things right during that time. They got some things wrong, to be honest with you. And I think the United States is heading down the same path.
Rod, let's talk about what you brought in. You brought in a rifle with you. What is it?
This is a CZ-858, and this is what we call a non-restricted firearm in Canada. It's a semi-auto, and the reason I brought it in is to show you how aggressive a semi-auto rifle can look and how innocuous they can look as
Can you
well.
hold it up for us? You've got it on the. It's leaning against the wall right now, but the reason I want to take a closer look at it, hold it up, is because it does have a clip on it, and it has a multi-bullet clip. Is this one of the firearms that the president is saying should be banned?
Well, this is a semi-automatic centerfire rifle, so this is very similar to the ones he wants to ban. He wants to ban assault rifles, and there's a lot of misleading information floating around. They are calling semi-automatics assault rifles. By definition, they are not. An assault rifle is a military-style rifle that shoots fully automatic, meaning the rifle will continue to cycle ammunition through the action, which is the part of the rifle, as long as the trigger is depressed, so throwing a ton of lead out. But semi-autos are just one round per pull.
How many cartridges will that clip hold?
Well, physically, it'll hold 30. In Canada, we're limited to 5 rounds in the magazine.
Why does somebody in this country need a gun like that?
Well, there's 2 legal reasons to own a firearm in Canada. One is hunting, and you can hunt with a firearm like this easily. The cartridge is large enough for deer or bear. And the other legal reason is target shooting or sport shooting. So that's anything from biathlon to shooting clays to tactical shooting, all kinds of different shooting sports.
Why do you have it?
I have it because I'm an instructor, and I'm also a sport shooter. So I'm not a hunter. I have no moral obligation, a moral objection to hunting, but I'm a sport shooter.
Do you agree that guns like that should be banned?
No. I don't agree because it's the problem is people that shouldn't have guns getting a hold of them. And this is one thing Canada did right. Canada licenses individuals, and that has kept our numbers down and has allowed people to enjoy the sports and maintain their rights to own a firearm.
How many guns do you own?
A few. I own.
I'm not being judgmental here. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I own about 20 guns. The majority, all of those 20 guns are deactivated. They're disabled for the firearm safety course. We don't have any live firearms in the classroom. And then I have several guns that are my own personal firearms that do.
And how many people do you see coming to you for instruction?
Business is booming.
Is it?
Yeah,
Why?
I'm almost turning people away. I'm not going to speculate on that, to be honest with you. A lot of people are getting interested. A lot of people, I think, through good efforts, they understand that the firearm is just a tool, just like a motor vehicle or any other, or like a chainsaw. And if you operate it properly, you're licensed and you're competent, they are just as safe as anything else.
Rod, thanks for your time this morning.
My pleasure.
Thanks for bringing in your gun.
Thanks.
Rod Giltaca, firearms instructor from Chilliwack. So what do you think about gun control, the debate going on in the United States, and also the debate that's now starting to emerge in this country based on the shootings that we've experienced in the past week or more? And do you own a gun yourself, and if so, why? And if you don't, have no interest, why not? Let us know on TalkBack at 604-662-6690 or email us earlyed@cbc.ca.